Everyone has said that. At the beginning, we are already that which we are seeking for. No more seeking. There's no reason to go anywhere at all. And if you're seeking, you're not at the beginning of yourself. Okay? Why? Because there's a feeling there that's bothering you. There's only one place we're ever going to be hurt. Any of you think you're going to be hurt tomorrow? Yes, and that's probably why your behavior today will be highly controlled and highly manipulated. But in fact, you might be blessed tomorrow, right? God might kiss you tomorrow. You might fall in love tomorrow. You might hear the most beautiful thing from someone tomorrow. You don't know. The truth of it is, the fact is, the only place we can ever be hurt is now. And early in our lives, not only has the ego and the nature of its structure felt the fear of its own non-being, but we went down through a birth canal, which was a pretty scary experience. And no matter how much we were loved, to some extent in our early life, there were times when what we were experiencing as infants was not well mirrored by our parents. There were times when the holding environment did not protect us from pain, discomfort. Words, those are words, but an infant doesn't know those words. When an infant is suffering, the universe is suffering. If the suffering is intense, there isn't any word for it. You, every one of you, has known a time when you were full in the fullness of yourself, but more often, every one of you has known a time where it was as if the ground went out from under you and you fell into a black hole, a snake pit, desolation, what I call in my work the monster. The place that causes you to collapse and lose any sense of your original self and to become completely, to lose your faith in the world, your faith in yourself, your faith in life. You understand what I'm talking about? We are born with what I would call innate or primordial faith. We are born with a sense of being that is whole, not broken. No original sin. God didn't leave anything out. The Tao didn't make a mistake. The source was not unhappy or fickle in the moment and decided to make you partial, or you a little more developed, or you a little less developed. We're born with innate, primordial, fundamental faith. And gradually, that faith gets eroded by one event or another event, even in the loving home. The holding environment, the early holding environment, has so much to do with whether inside ourselves the dominant feeling as we mature is, and this is not conscious. None of this is conscious. So unconsciously, the dominant feeling can be, I'm okay, or unconsciously, the dominant feeling can be, there's something wrong with me. Unconsciously, the dominant feeling can be a sense of distrust, loss of faith in oneself. And if I unconsciously internalize that when I'm very young, I will equally unconsciously externalize that in the world. And what is that? That is the collective human survival project, which never has enough safety, never has enough money, never has enough love, never has enough admiration, never has enough companionship, never has enough of whatever it is that we unconsciously imagine we need in order to be made whole. I only went so far on two directions on our mandala. We go into the future because that's how we're going to make sure we're going to be safe. That's how we're going to fulfill our survival project. What happens if 6 billion people externalize their distrust in themselves and in the world unconsciously? Well, you know what happens. All the forests get cut down. All the fish get fished out of the ocean. A certain president says, let's drill some more oil because the American way of life needs to pollute the world even faster than it's doing it. He's an idiot. But he represents people whose survival, even though one of the energy companies recently had a 280% increase in profit by simply raising the cost of energy to California arbitrarily when they deregulated it, and was able to pay himself a $120 million bonus. One man received a $120 million bonus that year. Well, there's 30 some odd million, 40 million people in California, so each of us gave him a tip, a big tip, you know. The point is, the survival project of each human being projected out into the world is leading us toward the end of human survival and a lot of other creatures. It's really important that we understand this, because spirituality has absolutely nothing to do with survival. Okay? Spirituality has nothing to do, is not about a higher order of survival. Spirituality isn't going to save you from anything. Coming to the center in here doesn't save us from anything, but it does change our relationship to the world. And intrinsically, if I'm going to get back here in my life, then I'm going to have to restore my faith. I'm going to have to do what? I'm going to have a conscious relationship to the experience of loss of faith that happened early in my life, each of us. What is our educational system about? I talked about that before. It's about the human survival project. We don't educate people to be. We do not educate people to have a relationship to their own feelings in order to see that you can be in relationship to anything as opposed to be driven by it. Now look over here. Right here is the beginning in each of us, but we're not there. We're in the future, we're in the past, but we're not either always there. Sometimes we're over here, this line extending to the left, toward others. Now, sometimes others are concepts or ideas. You ever met somebody that's so identified with their thinking, their ideas, that unless you agree to listen to their ideas, there's no way to have a relationship? That's most people would call that their husband. Most women would call that their husband. But it's not just ideas, it's the other, it's people. So that what happens when this person who you have unconsciously given yourself away to, you've left this place at the beginning of yourself and put yourself out on him or her, what happens when they don't behave the way you want them to behave? Anger. Right? Or impatience, irritability. When you experience anger, impatience, irritability, you know you have left the beginning in yourself and placed too much of your own beingness in somebody else. Now let's say they leave completely out of your life and you've put so much of yourself there. What happens? Desolation, terror, right? That's what happens to people. People actually think they've lost themselves when someone stops loving them. Now, I am not making fun of that because I have felt that so often in my life. It has been an ongoing war. I had spiritual awakening and illumination and still would feel I'd lost myself when my wife would lose her temper and withdraw love. You know? Amazing. Or when I have to stand on too long a line and I don't think I'm going to get my seat on the airplane. You know? And a million other ways that the unpredictability of the moment causes some part inside to think that it's losing the breast. You know, it's losing the nectar of life itself. When you feel yourself out in this direction, away from the center of yourself, it's easy. Irritable? Oh, I've put too much of myself on what they're going to do. Angry? I've put much too much of myself on what he or she is going to do. Okay. Here's this other direction, though. Who you are, who I am, what I realized, what I know, is that what I am cannot be spoken. Said in other words, our true nature, the true self, which can be realized and lived, cannot be named. It neither is nor is not. I am that I am, was what Yahweh says to Moses in the burning bush. I am that I am, nothing else. Yet, people say all the time, I am greedy, or I am lonely, or I am a person who is we punish ourselves over here. In this direction, we have concepts, ideas about ourselves, ideas. And we say to ourselves, I'm no good. I'm not good. Well, I'm no good because probably this one, the boyfriend left or the girlfriend left. Or I'm no good because probably I got passed up for the raise. You know what I mean? So we spend our whole lives not here, but I'm no good because in the future, in my future plan where I was supposed to be a successful multimillionaire, I ended up getting passed up for the job, right? Or because he or she didn't give me the love I thought I deserved or needed or imagined I needed in order to be sustained, or because back here in the past I did something I shouldn't have done, and or my parents did it to me, or my alcoholic father, or my you know my abandoning mother, on and on. And we spend our lives going around, bouncing and jumping, anywhere but here, anywhere at the beginning, because it's easier to live into the future, trying to anticipate threat. It's easier to put the love out there on someone else. It's easier to imagine the problem was in the past. And it's easier to sit there and call yourself names because it takes less energy. The more you come toward the middle, the center point here, the more energy you have to have, the more immediacy of relationship to yourself. That's why when you're rock climbing here, okay, or downhill skiing here, or out on a racing yacht here, or in the middle of an orgasm here, you don't really care what they do, and you're not busy worried about whether or not you're, a good man or a bad man, or a beautiful woman or a selfish person. And you're not in the past, and you're not in the future. Anything that'll get us to this place, we crave, we crave. The trouble is, even the athletes who go there routinely and become exceptional in their sport often don't know how to live there. They have no mastery of actually being there in the ordinariness of life. That's why you can have the experience in one place, but it doesn't generalize, You can feel so absolutely full in yourself until she hangs up the phone, or won't answer, or finds another lover, or he does, and so forth. Right here is where we have to be willing to be in relationship to every feeling. In order for us to come back to the beginning of ourselves, we have to heal that breach in faith or breach in trust that started very early in our lives, because that's what threw us into the future or the past, or put so much value on the other, or created all these ideas about ourselves that attack our self-esteem. Whereas here, self-esteem is intrinsic, inherent. You don't even have to look for it. You are it. And you are it beyond your wildest imagination. You're literally drinking from a fountain that fills you from a place as if from within the space between the atoms of existence, the cells of your body, you're filled, just literally filled with a current of life, which is a nectar, an ambrosia, a gift of the gods. When that happened to me, and it was there, and it lived on and on, I understood completely why people could become intoxicated by God, why they would not be interested in life or the world. What I also discovered was it wasn't strong enough for me, maybe in others, to completely heal these ways in which I threw myself or lost myself in others. Worries about the future, often in the form of financial worries, money worries. That I had to do a deep, deep work. And this is the work we all have to do. And this is the fundamental nature of spiritual practice, is the ability to come into relationship at the beginning in yourself to anything whatsoever that arises in you, and to know that its only reality is the feeling itself, not any thought you have about it. Its only reality is the fact that it is thought, not any additional thought or feeling you attach to the thought. To be able to be in relationship to what is arising in your consciousness without reactivity, without preference. And to do that, we have to have muscles. For example, if suddenly I scream fire, some people might get up in a panic and run out. Some people might be able to sit here and say, if we're all going to get out, we all have to keep our heads. We all have to keep our center. What's the fastest way for all of us to move? Now, if every single but a beam that's on fire falls into the room and someone collapses into fear, a telephone call says that the future you didn't anticipate would happen, might be happening, and we collapse into anxiety and fear. Someone that we have already gotten too attached to changes their behavior, acts in a way that's unpredictable, and we become angry, or we become actually threatened, as if our life could be taken away from us, and we collapse into that. And then we become the victim. Eckhart Tolle has written a book called The Power of Now. Now is the beginning. It's the only place that's real. We just don't have the spiritual muscle, the soul muscle, to come back to this, because this is surrounded right here with the feeling quality that is our original distrust, that is our learned loss of faith. It's the memory of the birth canal. It's the memory of 1,000 little things that didn't hold us. No one could have held us perfectly. It didn't hold us in a way that made us feel completely secure. The reason that I travel and teach is because I know that the human survival project is going to destroy us all, because we don't understand its limits. And I know that spirituality is not a survival project, even though that's how it's sold. It's sold, if you do this, if you have this practice, then you will reach the state of freedom. That's a complete lie. It was a lie when we talked about heaven. It's a lie if you imagine that your meditation practice will lead you to liberation and enlightenment. The relationship to the center in yourself is for no other reason than it is the moment that you're alive in. The beginning in ourselves calls to us only because we realize that every effort to make ourselves safe, by going in any of these directions, by putting so much value in the other, by trying to create a positive idea of ourselves, by doing all that work, getting all that education, doing everything to secure the right job and the right amount of money and make the future perfect, none of that works. It is doomed to failure because it doesn't rest right here at the beginning in ourselves. Right here. There's no other place. You're looking at me. I'm looking back at you. But the part of you that's looking at me, you can't see. Can you? It's a space, 100 or so spaces, looking, perhaps if you are looking at my face. I, in turn, am a space looking back at you. I see faces. Where does that space start or stop? Just for the simplicity of it, take your finger and point it toward me. Okay. You're pointing elsewhere. Relative to you, relative to the beginning in yourself, you are pointing elsewhere. Just as I'm pointing back at you, I'm pointing elsewhere. Okay? Here I am in my mandala. If I point it toward the future, I'm pointing elsewhere. Right? If I point it toward a thinkable idea about myself. If you can think it about yourself, one thing you need to know, it's not true. You cannot think who you are. If it's a feeling, the most blissful and wonderful feeling, it still doesn't tell you who you are. It's still arising in something more fundamental. The problem with your life is not in the past. And forgiveness is a movement that happens right here, nowhere else. The only place we have power over the future, right here, at the beginning in ourselves. Everything else is elsewhere. But let's be really clear again. Point toward me. Okay, I'm elsewhere. Point toward India and the guru that's there. Elsewhere. Okay? Point toward Jesus in some place deep inside your soul or everywhere in the universe. Elsewhere. Okay? Elsewhere. Point toward the winning the lottery. Elsewhere. Point toward the love of the woman or the man that's really the perfect soulmate for you. Elsewhere. Elsewhere. Do you understand? It's all elsewhere. It's not here. Okay, now let's take the hand and turn it around the finger and point right here. Now, you can decide. I'm going to have us point here between our eyes, okay? Because that's literally where we basically think from. We think from our heads. If you want, you can point it toward your heart, okay? The beginning of yourself is here, right? No question. But where does it start? Okay? Where does it start? Well, maybe you recognize that your mind is thinking a little bit about what I'm saying, even if it's not thinking about the ideas. Let's say it's judging what I'm saying or how I am in front of you. I'm exposed to you. You have all the room in the world in your mind to be judging, positively or negatively, okay? Point toward your judgments or your thoughts about what's happening tonight. Point toward them, figuratively, with your finger, right? Okay. Is that the beginning of yourself? How do you know you have those thoughts? How is it possible that you can say to yourself, I am liking what he's saying. No, I don't like what he's saying. I think someone else says it better. You know, whatever judgment you're making about this moment, is that the beginning in yourself? I want you to see that, get it clearly that that's not the beginning in yourself. So if you're walking down the street and tomorrow it decides to rain and you say, oh, what shitty weather, you're not at the beginning of yourself. If the weather stops, then we're in real trouble. That's what a Native American said to Carl Jung. Carl Jung said, oh, what a beautiful day. And the Native American said, I don't understand you whites. One day is beautiful, another day is not beautiful. One day is good weather, another day is bad weather. For our people, all weather is simply weather. Okay? Well, just like the weather, what about your emotional interior? Take a look. Point toward yourself. I know it sounds silly. Point toward yourself. Now, let's say you're unhappy. How do you know you're unhappy? Is the unhappiness the beginning in yourself? A lot of people think it is. And if they think the unhappiness is the beginning of themselves, where are they going to go? They're going to go either into the future and work harder or do something to try to change it, right? They're going to go into the past and blame something that somebody did to them or some situation or the government or their parents. Parents are usually good bet, you know. Or they're going to blame themselves. I'm just a shit. I'm just lazy. I'm no good. I'm just, you know what I mean? Where are they going to go? If the feeling isn't good, that's where they're going to go. Or they're going to say the feeling isn't good because he is such an asshole. He didn't bring home the dinner. He didn't care about how I was feeling. He wasn't sensitive to me, or she, or whatever. Do you understand? So but the feeling is not the beginning in yourself, is it? Do you understand? It's elsewhere. Now, I have to admit, there are a whole lot of people that are so emotionally not alive, usually men, that even though they're full of feelings, they don't know what they are. And for them to be able to know that they're feeling something is actually good. So I'm not saying there's something wrong with feelings. I'm just saying to you, pointing toward you, keep pointing. Seriously, keep pointing. All right. If I can tell myself what I'm feeling, then that can't be the beginning. If I can recognize what I'm thinking, that's still, my thoughts are still elsewhere. My feelings and emotions are still elsewhere. They're not as far outside as Richard, who's standing here. Though, on the other hand, what I have realized in me may actually bring you to the beginning in yourself.